Foreign Minister of Egypt, Mr. Sameh Shoukry, thank you for speaking to India today.
Very nice to be with you.
You had talked about the fact that India-Egypt relations had largely been nostalgic in the past, and now is the time for a full revival of the strategic relationship that we signed. What is Egypt's view of India's role in the region?
Well, I think India has demonstrated over the last years its abilities, its capabilities, both as a regional and international player that has the necessary weight and capabilities to be influential in framing the way forward for the region and internationally. Both India and Egypt have long been advocates of a rule-based world order and continue to be very influential in terms of the multilateral system and the desire to work collectively with its partners to achieve our desired aspirations, but also to meet the many challenges and difficulties of the current environment in which we live. So we believe that India has a major role to play and can do so in cooperation with its traditional partners, Egypt being among its strong friends and supporters, a support that has been mutual since India's independence and since the development of the relations over the last 70 years.
We have seen that Prime Minister Modi and President Sisi enjoy a good relationship. And yet, during this period, we have seen trade actually decline from 4.77 to around $3.23 billion. What is the reason for this decline that you've seen?
I don't think we should read too much into a decline of this limited nature. These are issues related to the commerce and the flows and the diversity in terms of both countries' relationships with each other and with their various other partners. But I think there's a will on both sides to see this relationship develop. India still constitutes a major trading partner for Egypt, and we look forward to enhancing that relationship for mutual benefit, taking full advantage of the complementarity and the comparative advantages that both countries have in a direct bilateral relationship, but also in terms of a trilateral relations with countries in the Middle East and in Africa. Egypt is strategically placed to be an influential partner in India's desire to project further into the African continent, and I believe that also the reform program that Egypt has undertaken and the facilities and the encouragement of its investment, newly adopted investment law, and the promotion of the Suez Canal corridor can provide for India a way into very important markets that can be beneficial to both India and to greater job growth in Egypt.
If you had to pinpoint 2 or 3 areas that India and Egypt should focus to boost trade, which would be these?
Well, traditionally, I think textiles, energy, and technology are the 3 areas where I believe there's a greater potential for increased cooperation. Egypt is developing as a hub of energy for the region with its own resources, and that in cooperation with its Eastern Mediterranean partners. And I believe that this is an important area where also cooperation with India in the petrochemical industries and in the development of fertilizers and other associated products is an area of growth.
If you had to do something to boost the trade, speed it up considerably, what would you focus on this visit?
We will focus on, again, demonstrating from the visit the political will that exists in both capitals at the highest level, the mutual benefit, but also the opportunities that are available in Egypt, the proceeds of the economic reform program and how it has opened the door for India to take advantage of the facilities that are available, and the traditional links between the two countries and the similarity of their views not only related to the political dimension, but also their participation in the economic development goals of the developing world and obtaining the development goals of the United Nations.
Now, India and Egypt had signed 2 years ago a national security agreement to share, particularly on terror, information and other means to combine our forces. What has happened to that? Have we made progress on this? And given the fact that India has been subject to many terror attacks, and so has Egypt, what do you think the two countries can do together?
Well, that has certainly been put into operation. There has been increased coordination and cooperation and exchange of information at the security and intelligence level. And we think that there is still room for improving our synergies and our ability to deal comprehensively with the terrorist threat. The greater our cooperation, I think the greater is the benefit to both countries to be able to protect themselves from the terrorist threat, from radicalization, from organizations that deem to destabilize both countries. And we look to deepening and strengthening that cooperation in all of the exchanges, but also in developing and advocating the same principles of a comprehensive relationship that we have the same point of views as relates the necessity to deal with terrorism from a comprehensive perspective. All of the terrorist organizations, to deal with the political situations that have created the vacuums that has allowed terrorism to flourish, and also deal with the socioeconomic elements that can guard against increased recruitment of whether Egyptians or Indians to the faulty ideologies that are presented by terrorist organizations.
Now, you know that India is deeply concerned with cross-border terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism, particularly from Pakistan. What is Egypt's view, and what can Egypt do to help sort out this process?
Well, we are addressing, whether in the multilateral format or in our bilateral relationships, all areas of cooperation to combat the rise of terrorist organizations that have primarily established themselves on territories in the Middle East, in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen, and that continues to threaten the international community and has perpetrated terrorist activities in Europe, in France, in Brussels, and elsewhere. And we believe that in our fight against terrorism, we must immunize ourselves from all forms of terrorism, all forms of illegal activity that targets innocent civilians, and must find the resilience and the necessary tools that can be utilized internationally so that we can all deal with this threat. The Middle East has suffered immensely. Also the spread of this phenomena in the African context. So we need to deal with it, whether in Africa, Middle East, Asia, Europe, from a, as I mentioned, comprehensive perspective that deals with all of the aspects and the different forms of terrorism.
You have close relations. Egypt has close relations with Pakistan. What is your advice to them, particularly when it, taking into account India's concerns on the matter?
Well, we try to advocate a balanced relationship with all of our international partners on the basis of mutual respect, non-interference in the internal affairs, and the building a relationship on mutual benefit and mutual interests. And we believe that those are the guiding principles for the relations between all states if we are to live in a peaceful and direct our efforts towards the prosperity of our peoples. And we hope that we will continue to have a productive relationship with all of our partners internationally.
India has been pushing for Jaish-e-Mohammed chief, the Azad Masood, to be declared a global terrorist by the UN Security Council. China has been blocking the process. What does Egypt stand on this matter?
Well, this is a matter which has to be addressed from its legal perspectives, from the various organizations that are responsible, in this case the Security Council. And the Security Council deals with this from the position of the permanent and non-permanent memberships as a reflection of the international community's consensual approach towards these issues.
And let's take a look at Hafiz Saeed, the LAT chief. He continues to be free despite being accused of perpetrating the Mumbai attacks. What does Egypt stand on this?
Well, Egypt has come out forcefully in condemnation of the attacks in Mumbai and is always at the forefront in condemning all forms of terrorism, all forms of targeting of innocent civilians. We believe that we should all exert every effort to apprehend and bring to justice those who have been implicated, and to bring them to justice so that we can dismantle the organizational capabilities of organizations that are dealing in terrorism and promoting radical ideologies.
Yet he continues to roam free in Pakistan, and India has been raising this issue. Has Egypt taken this up with Pakistan?
We address the issue from a totalistic perspective, and we continue to deal with this within the multilateral forums and also in communications on a bilateral level, in the need for a consolidated effort by all the states of the international community to effectively deal with the terrorist threat and to eliminate it.
The other issue is India's seat in the Security Council. There's been proposals, and many countries have supported India's position on that front, that India should be on the Security Council. What is Egypt's position on this?
Well, Egypt is guided by the Unified African consensus that was formulated in Ezulwini, continues to be a strong advocate of reform of the Security Council, but as of yet does not see that the negotiations and the deliberations between whether within the Security Council or at the level of the General Assembly have reached the level of consensus and compromise that is necessary to effectively offset the injustices that were instilled into the composition of the organizations of the United Nations at its inception. The circumstances have changed dramatically, and Africa was at the time of the creation of the United Nations mostly under colonial occupation, and thereby was not represented at the San Francisco and a signing of the charter, and thereby did not have the representation that it deserves as comprising a quarter of the international community. I believe that this is an ongoing issue that has to be addressed fully, and that on the basis of equitability and fairness, and rectifying the historical injustices that have been instilled into the system. But
does Egypt support India's candidature for the UN Security Council?
Egypt will support the consensus that develops within the negotiating process of the General Assembly as relates the new composition of the Security Council once that there is that consensus.
Okay. Coming to the ISIS, we have seen somewhat diminishing of the threat in recent months. Has the threat actually receded? What is Egypt's view on this?
Well, the threat has definitely receded with the successes in Iraq in eliminating the major forces of ISIS on Iraqi territory. Also, there have been major achievements in eliminating terrorist organizations, including ISIS, from Syria, the Syrian theater of operations. But the threat continues in the form of many other terrorist organizations, and as I mentioned, it is the comprehensive approach where we do not only focus on one specific organization, because it is the ideology, and this ideology is rampant in various organizations which are all affiliated if not in name, but in their objectives and their the foundations of their ideological ambitions. And it is important that we do not misinterpret any successes as relates to one organization as a final victory, but that we have to address this issue in not only eliminating ISIS as an organization, but eliminating all other similar terrorist organizations that advocate radical ideologies and that perpetrate terrorist activities against innocent civilians.
India and Israel have moved closer to each other. We've had a visit from Prime Minister Netanyahu recently, and the two countries have strengthened their strategic partnership that's there. How does Egypt view this development? Is it of concern?
No, hardly. I believe that the more there is a relationship of cooperation, the more is there the ability of India to project and convince, in this case, Israel, of the benefits of the resolution of the conflict and the normalization of the region, which is of benefit to India. It opens doors of greater economic and political cooperation with the region and provides the security environment that can be also helpful in de-escalating international insecurity. I believe that Egypt has an equally normal relationship with Israel, and we look forward to the day when the conflict is resolved and that relations are normalized in the region of the Middle East with the creation of the Palestinian independent, viable state on the basis of the borders of 1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital, the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people as recognized by the international community and the Security Council, and the international legitimacy which is in also the Security Council and the General Assembly. I think that the situation will be conducive to even more cooperative relationships at the regional and extra-regional level.
Now, you had mentioned Jerusalem, and President Trump of the United States has declared or recognizes Jerusalem as the capital. How much of a setback is this in terms of an international negotiated settlement for Palestine?
It has impacted the efforts of many countries of the region to pursue and promote and to advocate for an end of the conflict, reinitiation of the negotiating process, with the recognition of the important role that the United States plays as a vital, if not indispensable, partner in providing a path forward and in its ability to be an interlocutor to both the Israelis and the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian people. We hope that we can supersede this development and regain the ability of opening the door for direct negotiations and an end to the conflict, so that the area of the Middle East can also benefit from peace and security and stability.
Would you describe it as a huge setback? I mean, has turned the clock back many years?
It is definitely a development that we has had a negative impact on the process and its potential, but we believe that we should look forward rather than backwards, and we should do everything possible to find the necessary parameters to re-engage and to reinstitute the political process for the benefits of both the Palestinian and Israeli peoples.
Now, when it comes to Iran, President Trump has wanting to break off the nuclear agreement that is there. He's spoken of it many times. What would be the impact of him doing so? And do you think if Iran begins to develop nuclear weapons, Egypt would also start doing so?
Egypt has stated on various occasions that it would never be drawn into a area of nuclear arms proliferation. Egypt has been at the forefront of the support of the non-proliferation regime and of the desire to rid the world of all nuclear and other weapons of mass destruction. We believe that any development of nuclear weapons is is a extreme threat to international peace and security, but is also inconsistent with the moral obligations of states to preserve humanity and to alleviate the dangers of such menacing weapons, devastating weapons on world peace and security. We believe that Iran must comply with its obligations towards the NPT and must continue to be a non-nuclear weapon state by its own commitment, and that it should honor its commitments towards the International Nuclear Atomic Energy Agency and must fulfill all its obligations in this regard.
Are you concerned that President Trump is going to break off this agreement with Iran? What does Egypt stand on that?
Well, I don't really want to speculate on what the U.S. might or might not do. This is an issue that can only be resolved by the United States. We hope that whatever decision is taken is conducive to maintaining the security and the stability of the region. And we also recognize that there is a role for Iran to play in this also by fulfilling its obligations, whether towards the agreement or towards the IAEA.
There has always been some ambiguity in the Middle East's approach towards Kashmir. Where does Egypt stand on the Kashmir issue?
We support the peaceful resolution of all issues of conflict through diplomatic means, on the basis of the recognition of the need for dialogue and to totally continue to avoid any form of military intervention or military conflict and its adverse consequences on the lives of millions of individuals. It is only through dialogue and an equitable solution to these long-standing issues, and Egypt will always be supportive of such a resolution.
And what do you think of the current approach, India's current approach on the matter?
Well, we again advocate that there should be dialogue and negotiations that can lead to a final resolution that takes into account the interests of all the peoples of the region and that conforms with international rules of law.
The other issue that you've been talking about is tourism. And what is it that Egypt seeks from India in terms of promoting tourism, particularly because that's one of the thrusts of your government?
Well, we are certainly two ancient civilizations, and tourism between the two countries can generate income for both the industries in both countries. Of course, the weight of the Indian size of its population can be a very important resource. There are 4 million Egyptians that depend on tourism for their livelihoods, and tourism has been impacted in the past turbulent years, and thereby to compensate for that impact, I think an increased level of tourism from India will be very highly appreciated, as is the affinity that exists between the two people. And I'm sure that Indians visiting Egypt and Egyptians visiting India will feel very much at home, but will also become more closely educated in the historic cultures that both countries have provided to humanity.
And finally, on the new Suez Canal, what is the kind of investments you think India should be making? What is the advantages we should be taking on this?
Well, again, it's a strategic position of the Suez Canal as a corridor between the East and the West. The Egyptian establishment of the Suez Canal industrial corridor with the provision of many incentives for investment and production that can easily be redirected and exported from Egypt into Western Europe, taking advantage of Egypt's relationships with an association agreement to the European Union, with a free trade agreements to most of the African nations and Middle East. So we, through Egypt, we can open avenues and corridors of potential growth in Indian exports that benefits both India and Egypt. We hope that this growth in the investments of India and Egypt will be beneficial to both the Egyptian economy and that of India, especially since it is an investment that comes with a receptivity that is not conditioned on any political premise, that is purely for the economic and commercial benefit of both people, and to take advantage of also that India, we recognize, has always been generous in the transfer of technology that it has developed, and thereby we can build on the South-South relationship and the complementarity and the interdependence that I think can catapult both nations to a better status economically, and can provide for their peoples and raise them out of poverty and create a better living conditions.
Are you offering any special concessions for Indian businessmen over there?
Well, those who have come have seen the benefits, and the concessions are the very major returns on their investment that we hope will continue to grow and benefit the Indian economy.
But on this trip, are you hoping to settle some of these things, some agreements on it?
I think the already structures are available, but also the newly endorsed investment law in Egypt provides very important incentives to direct foreign investment, and the experience of those companies that have already invested over $3 billion in Egypt are a testament that should be attractive to other business corporations.
Well, Foreign Minister, thank you very much for this interview. We hope that, as you said, relations between India and Egypt, the time has come for it. Now is to cash in on it.
We look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.